Hi, this is Chris from the Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from Political Voices Network.
Well,
Step in.
Bob, this is why I quoted you already before you got here. Now let me quote you to you. Because yesterday I was saying we were that Saturday Night Live skit where we were critiquing something none of us had seen, which was Jon Stewart. But obviously a lot of people on social media and callers were really upset. And I hadn't seen it, and as I said, he remains wildly talented, but I agree with people and with you who said, here's exactly where Jon Stewart lost me last night. About 15 minutes into the show, he said President Biden deserves more scrutiny than Trump, more. When Biden accumulates a record of damage as existentially dangerous as Trump's fine. I just was saying, yeah, he had the one clip where he, about Trump's memory, and then he piled on Biden for I don't know how many minutes about his age. And go ahead.
Yeah, I think Jon Stewart, for whatever reason, and I like to preface by saying that I admire Jon Stewart. I've watched The Daily Show going back to the early George W. Bush years. I mean, it's been a legacy program to follow, but that show Monday night was indicative of someone who thinks that we're still in normal times, that we're still in this old paradigm where if Republicans get elected, it's just going to mean tax cuts for the rich, and that's all we have to deal with.
Yeah.
We're well beyond that now.
Yeah, and I don't mean to, I do have exquisite taste.
And it feels like we're just going through the Mad Libs of the talking points to defend Joe Biden. I think
the mainstream media has it covered that Biden's old.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. What we need to do now is just own it. Joe Biden's going to be renominated for the presidency. I mean, no one's better positioned to be president again than the person who's already president, who has the heft of the White House behind him. I mean, that's why we've been seeing for the last few days Joe Biden delivering remarks from the White House, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so
because he's Andrew Shepard and he is president.
Yeah, so these couple of things. We know he's going to be renominated. He's going to run again. He's going to be on the ballot in the fall. And he's old. We need to own this. We need to own what he is and own his accomplishments in spite of the fact that he's old. I mean, he's done an incredible job. Yeah. And we're not saying necessarily that his age is showing. We're just saying that, we're not going to deny the fact that he's 81 years old. I mean, that's an objective bit of reality there.
Yeah. But you said it's been nearly 9 years since the escalator, and most of the political news media still doesn't know how to cover Donald Trump. And the New York Times, they're supposed to be the liberal paper? No.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you want to make a big deal about Joe Biden's age, at least make 3 times bigger a deal out of the fact that Donald Trump is inviting Vladimir Putin to invade Europe. I mean, I can't emphasize how much of a big deal this is. I mean, this is the biggest story the last couple of years, at least, because of where it goes. And you know what? Donald Trump doesn't actually have to do it while president. Vladimir Putin heard what he said over the weekend loud and clear. So Vladimir Putin's, if he's got plans, he's making plans. And so this is the kind of thing that we have to contend with the Donald Trump presidency. And that rises far above any issue of Joe Biden saying Mexico instead of Egypt or whatever Jon Stewart was making a big deal about the other night. It's
that's what I said. He clearly knows that Sisi is the head of Egypt. He's been talking to him nonstop since October 7th. It's like he misspoke the name of one country, anyway.
Yeah. And everyone's been making the point that any parent with 3 or more children routinely refers to their children by the wrong name.
Oh, I was always the last name picked because I'm the youngest. So.
Yeah, I mean, just with having 2 dogs, how many times do you refer to the dog by the wrong name of the other dog?
Yeah.
And so this is something people do, especially once you get older than 40. Sometimes that tends to happen.
You should have grown up at You should have grown up at the Richards, my best friend's the Richards house. There were 7 daughters, so it was always Tanya, Sandy, Shelley, Tracy, Moore, Shannon, Tara. One of you, get over here.
Rutabaga. Yeah, it's just starting to throw in just weird words in the middle of it. Yeah, not even names. You're just saying words, naming nuts.
So thank you for tweeting back. Piers Morgan, of course, tweets, why should America automatically defend NATO countries that don't spend 2% of GDP as defense as they're required to do? Pay up or pay the price. And you said this is like saying police shouldn't intervene in a murder if the victim was unarmed. Think about what pay the price means, Piers. When millions are dead, will you stand by your flippant, ghoulish Trump fluffing a horse? Yes or no?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
can I just say, Seth Abramson said, here are the European countries Donald Trump and the GOP are fine with the Russian army invading due to them narrowly missing a 2% NATO spending target. MAGA's okay with Putin killing millions of the citizens of these nations as America watches. Albania, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Montenegro, Portugal, the Netherlands, North Macedonia, Norway, Slovenia, Spain, and Turkey.
Just to name a few.
Just as a
Oh,
warm up.
and by the way, I just want to mention that Canada is a NATO nation.
Thank
So
you. Yes, Canada.
Donald Trump is basically encouraging Russia to invade maybe Canada. Who knows? But I mean, here's the thing about the NATO thing. It's entirely a Vladimir Putin Russian talking point to say, oh, well, they've got to pay up. They're not paying their fair share. As though there's like, it's a club and you have to pay your club membership dues or something like that. And there's all these scofflaws, like Donald Trump probably would be if he were a member of this club, not paying his dues.
Yes.
Because he doesn't pay anybody. But the fact of the matter is,
Thank you.
that's
the irony.
That's not a. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. There's a guideline in the NATO charter that says, it'd be great if you spent about 2% of your GDP on military defense, but it's not a requirement in order to be in NATO. There's no rule saying that, and it's not taking money away from the United States. Taxpayers aren't footing the bill for anyone's military defense unless we're, strategic allies with those people. But the fact of the matter is that this is just a gigantic lie as a pretext for allowing Russia to invade Europe. And by the way, we're kind of yada-ing the fact that Donald Trump will absolutely allow Russia to annex Ukraine. I mean, that's done. If Donald Trump wins in the fall, Ukraine is done as a nation.
You think the
it's
stakes
going to be annexed by Russia? Yeah.
The stakes were high for Putin in 2016. Imagine what it'll do in 2024 to get Trump in. I mean, and by the way, Rick Stengel echoed your point. He said, "Once a landlord, always a landlord. NATO is not a Queens, New York apartment complex. There are no dues. You can't be in arrears. They don't owe us anything. It's a military alliance where countries agree to spend 2% of their GDP for defense and to support each other against aggression. All those countries I named, Bob. So they're okay. They fall a tiny bit below 2% once in a while. And I mean, it's just so insane to go, I'm not going to do anything. In fact, I'm going to tell Russia to attack you. It's just peak insanity.
Yeah, he is such a destabilizing element in the entire world. I mean, you can start with what'll happen to the Supreme Court for another generation. We could talk about the climate crisis, what's going to happen there, because he's going to roll back all that stuff. He pledged over the weekend to abolish all gun control laws.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg here in terms of this disaster. And there are people rending their garments out there right now going, oh, why is Biden 81 years old? My God, what a trespass against presidential decency, or whatever they're saying about Joe Biden. That is absolute nonsense. I mean, the part that, by the way, Jon Stewart picked apart on his show the other night, Joe Biden talking about at length and off the cuff, extraordinarily complicated negotiations in the Middle East.
Yes.
And navigating the landmines that are surrounding that entire issue. And he's doing it spontaneously without any notes. And Jon Stewart's like, well, why didn't he spit out these words faster? As though that were somehow a qualification to be president.
Thank you.
God,
he takes one clip of him talking about the most complicated issue in the world, this whole Middle East disaster, right?
Well, I mean, while we're back on that, Jon Stewart also said that, well, if the other guy wins, there may be some bad things, but the country's not over. I said, well, hang on a second. This is not... What are you talking about? Mitt Romney's not running for president. This is not the John McCain candidacy of yesteryear. We're talking about a guy who's pledged to be a dictator, who's pledged to replace 50,000 federal workers with sycophants and loyalists who will make sure he can stay in office when his term ends. I mean,
you just tweeted about Trump calls for mass detention camps and rounding up millions of Latinos. You said, who here thinks he'll stop with undocumented immigrants? We should prepare ourselves for the possibility that anyone he deems undesirable or threat to his dictatorship will be booted too. I mean, there is not enough hyperbole for this year. And can I just say again, if you like your comedy, if you like it patriotic and not both sides do it, Bob Seska, Frangela, John Fugelsang, Hal Sparks, this show, we do not have time for these both sides do it jokes like we're Bob Hope's era. You know, this one,
Right.
Louisa tweeted, "I wonder if it matters to you, New York Times, that cancel the Times is trending here on Threads. Are you so entrenched in tradition that you think your paper is safe? It's not. But her emails has become but his age, and we are not having it. Our democracy hangs by a thread, and your paper, a la the Iraq debacle, is increasing the danger."
I mean, we all remember the Hillary is dying meme that was circulating through all the conspiracy theory people, Alex Jones, and then it made its way into the mainstream news when Hillary Clinton stumbled a little bit because she had pneumonia at the 9/11 ceremony in 2016.
Imagine if she hadn't gone. If she hadn't gone, that would have been the other news cycle.
Right.
And Wolf Blitzer was playing that footage. CNN was playing that footage like the Zapruder footage, for God's sake. It was going over and over again. Let's roll that back. Let's go to
back
the
and to the
videotape.
left, back and to the left. She fell back.
Life
and to the
goes
left.
on and Texan is there. It was like the buckwheat has been shot video, except it was Hillary Clinton stumbling. You know what? Here we are. How many years later, nearly a decade later, Hillary Clinton is doing just fine. She's on cable news. She's giving speeches. She's doing her whole Hillary thing. Perfectly healthy. Not a problem. And if I see if Joe Biden loses this, because people think he's too old, and then 3-4 years from now, Joe Biden's out there riding his bike and giving speeches, my head is going to absolutely explode another few dozen times.
Oh my God, the New York Times piece, Trump is tall and heavyset, and Biden is thin and seems, it's like, yes, because he's fit, and the other guy's a fat tub of treasonous trans fats. Oh my God, really? Being thin at 80 is bad? It's because he's in shape. Oh my God, I can't. Okay, your last tweet, you said two of the most untold stories of the Biden administration, both of which we've told before you yell at me, are one, under Biden, U.S. oil production is higher than any country ever in history. Under Trump, violent crime spiked. Under Biden, violent crime is falling. They literally don't have a talking point anymore, which is why they just all they have are stunts.
And remarkably, after all the yelling I've done this morning, I'm feeling pretty confident about November, and I probably shouldn't, but I probably shouldn't say it out loud.
Oh, Captain Buzzkill over there would like you to know that Tom Squazzi didn't want Biden to campaign for him. He's a moderate, and so we shouldn't be happy about what happened.
All right. Well, as long as he caucuses with the other Democrats, I don't care what he does.
When he votes like Joe Manchin and you start complaining, I'm not going to say I told you so.
Okay.
I can't.
Well, I don't
there's
know
some
if
white
they
noise
do
that I
as a
can't hear you,
freshman.
Bob. What else were you saying, Bob?
Maybe 10 years from now we'll have a problem with that, but right now he's got to stay in line because he's the new guy.
I'm gonna break the Bob Cesca rule and get happy.